Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Silik and we've got a brand new show for you to enjoy this week. I'll take you to a Saginaw Bay duck hunting club that's been around for over 100 years. You won't want to miss that story. We'll also have a duck recipe to go along with that. And Jimmy and Jordan have some deer hunting in store for us this week.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have a few more things on this week's show. We're actually going to kick off this week's episode by following some hunters on opening day in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula, and we have a cool buck poll that we're going to stop in as well. Lots of good stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988, offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By RBM Jigs, a Michigan-based company serving ice fishing anglers around the state and throughout the country. Specializing in ice fishing gear, RBM Jigs manufactures tungsten jigs, soft plastics, and much more. Online at lakeeffectlures.com. By Walker's Creek Event Venue at Double D Ranch. Located in the central Michigan town of Lake, Walker's Creek offers an outdoor setting for weddings, corporate events, and more. Walker's Creek Event Venue, wcvenue.com.
We're here for opener of rifle season. We're in Luzerne, Michigan. It's northeast section of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, and it's Skoda County, I believe. There's a ton of public land around here, which is why we really like it. We got guys coming in for deer camp from all over the state. It's kind of a nice centrally located area, and it's a place that families been coming to over the years for generations, really. Back in the 80s, my Uncle Kurt had a property in McKinley, which is not too far from here, and my dad and grandpa and uncles used to all come up for deer camp, and then over time people moved and changed places and had different hunt camps around the state. And when we were looking for a new spot to set up, we figured to come back to this kind of same area where my dad got his first buck back in 1985, and I shot my first rifle buck in the same area with that same gun, 30 years later. So it's just a fun place to make memories with family and look back on history and share stories, and whether the deer hunting's good or not, you're going to have a good time with good people. Todd.
Well, it's opening day. It's Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. We are in Skoda County, I believe, staying in a cabin in Luzerne right on the Asaba River. And we're on some public land here that we've been, this particular chunk about 6 years that we've had some good luck, but it's been kind of a family tradition to come up to this area for a couple of generations now. And the spot we're hunting today, we're up on a ridge, kind of looking down on some low area. We've got a bunch of pines and oaks behind us. A couple of years back, I got a nice 8-point over to our left, chasing does up the ridge. And the season after that, I got my biggest buck, a 10-point. He was in some thick stuff, grunted at him, and he came charging in looking for a fight. So this time of year is always fun having some action like that. Just never know what kind of stuff might show up this time of year. So it's a really cold week. It's going to be freezing temps all week long. We're supposed to be getting some snow this afternoon or later this morning, actually. So I love having that white background. So opening day in northern Michigan and just looking for some excitement.
It's a coyote. That's probably what spooked the deer. Wow, it's a big coyote.
The morning hunt was pretty uneventful. We had one deer come running by, followed shortly thereafter by a coyote, and that was about it. The plan was to sit all day, so we hunkered down and hoped for the best. And around 1 o'clock, Jeff spotted a buck working its way through the timber.
Right there it is. It's a buck. I can't tell how big though. I'm on it. It's a shooter. He just walked by like 50 yards. He's coming towards an opening. I'm on him. If you can get a shot. Oh yeah. Yeah, I see him. I didn't get a great look at him. It just looked like he was decent.
Well, it's opening day, and we've had quite the weather change. Been getting a lot of real wet snow. We decided to do an all-day sit, and the good news is we had a buck come through at 1 o'clock, so our efforts paid off for being cold and wet. Bad news was, as soon as I put my gun up, I couldn't see through my scope. I even had covers on it, took the covers off. And just because of condensation or ice or some kind of moisture on the scope, couldn't really make out what I was looking at. Jordan was able to get it in the frame. But even when I was looking through the scope, it was just all foggy. I couldn't even tell if it was a doe or a buck. And we got some real thick stuff behind us, so I didn't want to take a bad shot and end up wounding it or doing something like that. So I'd rather just pass than take a shot I couldn't do a good one on. But the good news is my brother Greg and our buddy Scott's out, and they've been seeing deer pretty much all morning, especially Greg. He's had a couple different doe coming through, some bucks following the does. And we just had a buck come through at 1 o'clock, so it's pretty cold and wet out here, but it's beautiful. We got a nice white background, and hoping as the evening goes on, we'll see some more bucks.
Well, we never did see another deer, which made for a long, cold 11-hour sit in the tree stand. But the deer hunting is only part of what deer camp is all about.
This has got to be one of my most favorite times of the year, and I think with a lot of deer hunters, that's the case. I love deer hunting, and I'm really passionate about it, and love to go for big bucks, and have been lucky to take some pretty good bucks over the past several years. But this week is really more about just friends and family. We've recently had some family pass away that used to come to the deer camps, and you only get so many deer camps with friends and family, so it's fun to make the memories and have some laughs. If you get some deer hanging on the buck pole, it's just that much better, but it's really more just getting to see folks that maybe you don't get to see all that often and do the deer hunting and spend special time with special people.
Day 2 was more of the same. Lots of snow, a little bit more wind, and no deer. Even though the deer hunting was a little slow, it's hard not to enjoy the beauty and the access that this part of the state has to offer.
I think the great thing about this area is that there's so much public land. It doesn't seem too crowded. Certain sections can get fairly crowded, but I think there's enough property for us all to kind of spread out and have some opportunity to see deer. And not that it's necessarily the best deer hunting, but you know that you can find your own special little spot, and if you put in some time and look for some sign, that you can have some opportunities as well. It's a real neat area with seems like a great atmosphere for deer hunting community, with some of the local restaurants and bars and doing buck pulls and things like that. So you get up here this time of year and you got a lot of folks driving around in pickup trucks and wearing blaze orange and having a good time sharing deer stories.
On the second afternoon, I decided to head to the local buck pull to see how some of the other hunters in the area had done the first 2 days, and also learn a little bit more about this annual event.
We're in downtown Mayo, Michigan, next to Blue Collar. This is our 5th year with the new pole. We do this mainly for the community, camaraderie of a lot of the local people. We have first, second, third place divisions, youth division, doe division. This year right now we're at, I think, 15, 16 deer. We usually get close to a full pole. Our first 3 years we've had full poles, and a lot of people say there ain't deer around here in Mayo or around the Luzerne area, but it seems like people pull them out every year, so we're pretty proud of that. Me, myself, I'm a hunter. You know, I take the second day of deer season off religiously myself to do this, which in a way it kind of stinks, you know, because I like to be out there in the woods, but like I said, we do it for the community and the youth. Hopefully we can get more kids involved with what we're doing here, because it seems like the youth hunters are kind of going down in numbers, so we're trying to promote that a little bit more, but we'll see what we can do with that and then move forward with it.
By the end of the night, there was bucks of all shapes and sizes hanging on the pole, and I was able to catch up with a few of the lucky hunters.
Oh, it was kind of wild. In the morning, I went out, nothing at first, and then I was kind of scared for a moment because he went right next to me, right next to the blind, and he was like looking at me, and I thought he could see me, and I was trying to move, and he just wandered off, and I couldn't get a shot. But later in the day, I went back out, and it was around 3:36, and I got him. He came right back on the trail he was from, and I was able to get a shot at him. So.
And how many years have you been hunting?
I have been hunting 10 years or more.
10 years? It's your first buck?
First buck. I already got 2 does underneath my belt, but yeah, first buck.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, honestly, it's not like a really crazy, exciting story. My friend of mine over here, Ryan Sprague, he actually recommended a good spot for me to hunt. And we went and found a nice tree for a climbing tree stand. And opening morning, first thing, probably 20 minutes after legal shooting light, he came walking up right up a clear cut after going down to a water hole. And he actually got within 39 yards of me before I shot him. So, and he dropped in his tracks. I didn't have to track him or anything. So it just,
private land,
it's public land. So it actually couldn't have worked out any better, to be honest.
All right, so we were sitting in the blind. So we had a spike down front. We had 2 does to the left, and the does were getting a little spooky, but they didn't move really. The spike looked off into the woods to the left, and then I looked over and all I saw was a rat coming through the woods. He came up a little bit, he had his nose down, I guess he was looking for does. He had his nose down, he walked away, the spike went with him, and he came back, the spike came back, and then he came back behind him. And before he got to the shooting lane, he stopped right behind a tree. And he started getting a little spooky. He backed up 1 step, and it was just enough for his shoulder to pop out. And I shot him and dropped him right there.
So how far was the shot?
Probably, it wasn't that far, probably 80 yards maybe.
All right, well, I'm out there just scanning the woods, looking for an hour, and then all of a sudden he pops up 35 yards in front of me. So I went to grab my rifle as fast as I could, and he kind of heard something, and he started boogieing, and I was panicked. I said, "Oh no, please stop." He stopped about 50 yards out broadside, and it was a sloppy hunt. I actually dropped my rifle for the first time ever. My bowstring broke, and it fell 15 feet. So I climbed down and grabbed my rifle, get back in the tree, and when I took the first shot, he just stood there. I've never had that happen with a gun. So I shot a second time, he dropped, and then I just sat there for about 30 minutes and soaked it up. I've been hunting up here 2 decades plus and never seen a buck like this.
There's nothing quite like the first few days of the firearm deer season. It truly is a tradition like no other. Special thanks to Jeff and the crew for letting me share in their deer camp. It was a fun few days here in Northeast Michigan.
All across our great state, there is so much history of our outdoor heritage to enjoy and explore. And right now, we're going to take a look at one of those slices of history in Saginaw Bay. Duck hunting the waters and shorelines of Saginaw Bay is a time-honored tradition with lots of history here in Michigan. There's one duck camp in particular that holds lots of history of our waterfowling heritage here in the Au Gres area.
There is no place like it. Out behind us used to be owned by the Smith family, which did Chris Craft boats, and they would farm muskrats, and they did market hunting in the 20s and 30s. So it was all cornfields, and then they'd flood it, and all the dikes would be filled up, and the ducks would just come in like flies. And then they'd take punt guns out with punt boats and just devastate them and sell them to the restaurants for food. And in addition to the muskrat farming they did back there, and that ties into their whole boat building business, right? That's how they got started with the boats, because they were doing the duck hunting. And when my dad bought into the place back in the 80s, the Smith family no longer had any interest in this place. It was run down. It had a couple of caretakers, but you could drive by and all their buildings were overgrown. But the really cool thing about this place was that in the 1920s, when the Smith family built all this elaborate system to get the ducks, they had all these tailings. And some lawyers from Flint came out and they built this club out on the tailings. And the law of the time was that if they made the land and you built on it, it was yours. So the moral of the story is that you don't go up against a bunch of lawyers when it comes to easement law. So those guys established the club, and it's been here since the 20s.
Make no mistake, when Franz says the 20s, he's referring to the 1920s, 100 years ago. A camp built strictly for the purpose of duck hunting. That's a heritage Dathan Skelton is proud to be a part of.
Our camp here is probably the last one left in the area. There's really not many left on Saginaw Bay in its entirety, all the way from Seaboing around to Linwood, all the way up to Au Gres, the whole bay. It's a thing of the past. The lake has taken its share. DNR has bought up a lot of property for public access. Some of them burned down, just never been replaced. The advent of guides and stuff have kind of taken away that, that stigma that, you have something special like we do, and most people just, I'll just hire a guide for a weekend and watch football on Sunday. So, but yeah, it's a very unique place in that it's one of, it's last of the Mohicans.
What I like so much about this place is that you are able to get away from the digital world. You're able to get away from work. We got propane heat, propane light, hand pump in the kitchen, outhouse in the back. Not everyone is attracted to a marsh in the middle of nowhere. Like if you bring some people out there, they'll look at they'll see all the mud and all the yuck, and they won't appreciate it. And that's one of the great beauties of this place. You can come out here and just be immersed in nature in a place that there's nowhere like it. Dathan and I were talking earlier today, and one thing that makes this place really unique is this part of the bay, you can see the sunrise and the sunset. You can't really do that in very many places in the coast of Michigan, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Dathan is a duck hunter, I go duck hunting. There's a big difference. And when Dathan and I started hunting together when we were probably about 16, I brought him up there. All the guys up here love him. They ask him to go hunting with him, and his skills as an outdoorsman have just grown and grown, to the point where he's actually teaching everybody else about duck hunting now. So, and doing this carving and everything. So that's what's really special about this place, is not only history, but the history of us as just bonding as individuals and being a really nice cohesive group of folks that have known each other for a very long time.
This is like my holy ground. I've been coming up here with the Schmelzer family for a long time, since I was a kid. I'm 48 now, and I have a lot of special memories here, a lot of special friendships, and it's hard to explain. It's my church. In the morning, our plan is to hunt a shoreline area. I've been watching for the last 24 hours, and there's a lot of ducks moving in and out. So hopefully we can get some shooting for you guys and do it over some old school decoys, which I love. So.
If Dathan looks familiar, it's because we had him on the show here a couple of months ago to showcase his passion for decoy carving. His personal brand of longtail decoys are functional works of art that he enjoys hunting over.
We're basically going to be hunting shorelines, reed patches and things like that. There's a variety of ducks up here right now. Your mallards and black ducks are here, and the divers are starting to show. So we're seeing some bluebills and redheads and things like that as well. So it could be a mixed bag for the hunt. Duck season's been going now for about a month, so the ducks are getting a little skittish. If it doesn't look 100% perfect, they'll just bye and they're gone.
That was definitely the case for us here this morning. We had only a few hours to hunt and the birds didn't cooperate with us this time around. But we were lucky nonetheless, for a few ducks in the game bag are just an added bonus to a day spent in this little slice of heaven right here in Michigan's Out of Doors. For those of you who have had better luck on recent duck hunts, we thought we'd bring you this recipe.
Well, we are here once again in Mount Pleasant at Wood Shop Social with Jim Wood. What are we cooking today?
We're going to do duck carbonara.
Okay, so I know we got some duck here. What did you do to this to get it to this stage?
So a few years back we did a recipe with this. This is duck ham, and we take it and we do a brine that includes maple syrup, water, curing salt, a little bit of booze, and you cure it overnight and then we smoke it.
Okay, and how long did you smoke it for?
Smoke it for about 3 hours to 160 degrees.
Okay.
Not a super long smoke, but plenty long enough.
Well, let's get it started. How do we do this?
All right, so we get our pan going. A little bit of oil.
What kind of oil are you using?
We're just using olive oil here.
Okay.
And then what we're trying to do here is crisp up this ham.
All right. Well, I did try a little bit of that beforehand, and it's pretty good.
Past your palate?
Yes. And you got some noodles already done here.
Yep, the noodles are already cooked. And then we've got some reserved water that the noodles were cooked in. They're going to help make the sauce.
Okay.
We've got some whole eggs, egg yolk. We've got Parmesan and Romano, a little bit of salt, and then we've got a little bit of extra Parmesan to garnish it. Now we've got that cooked down. We're going to add our pasta here.
Now that pasta, did you cook it all the way or just part way?
No, we cooked it like 80% of the way.
Okay. A little al dente?
Al dente. Wow, look at you. Learned that in cooking school?
I watch a lot of TV.
Okay. Michigan Out of Doors?
Yeah, but their chef's a little shady. Okay, so Jim, explain what we're doing here with this pot of water.
So we're going to indirectly cook the rest of this dish, basically so there's not flame on the pan that's going to coagulate or scramble these eggs, basically. So
okay.
We're tempering, essentially. So what you do here is we're going to take our eggs, we're going to add them to this bowl that we're going to cook over the water. We're going to whisk it good. This is going to create a little friction to warm these eggs up a little bit.
But you're not wanting to cook them all the way through?
No. And then we're going to add the Parmesan and Romano.
Wow.
And then we've got a little bit, we reserved a half cup of the same water that we cooked the
pasta in.
And we're going to add that right to the pan that has the pasta already in it.
And now do you have to make sure you've cooked the eggs enough then, or they?
Yeah, you'll know. Basically, you'll pull this back, and when you quit seeing the liquid,
okay,
see that liquid in there?
Yep.
That means you're good to go. Lots of times you get carbonara at a restaurant, and they use cream and butter, which whatever, that's fine. But this is the real deal, legitimate way to make it.
Well, we like nothing but the real deal here.
I know you do. All about classics.
So what is the name of this dish?
Duck ham carbonara.
Thank you so much for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you join us again next week. We've got another brand new show in store for you, and it's chock full of deer hunting, including a couple of deer hunts with our nation's veterans. If you'd like to see where we are and what we're up to out in the woods and on the water, you can always check us out online.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Online is a good way to kind of keep tabs on us. Of course, you can do it through our website or different social media platforms. Lots of places you can be checking us out. Make sure you're joining us over the next several weeks. Lots of good stuff coming for you. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO-2-ALTA.
By Jay's Sporting Goods, with locations in Clare and Gaylord. Jay's has been serving the Michigan outdoor enthusiast since 1971, with a wide variety of outdoor products. The gear, the knowledge, the tradition of Jay's. On the web at jaysportinggoods.com.
By Showspan, producing consumer shows including the Ultimate Fishing Show Detroit, January 12th through 15th at Novi Suburban Collection Showplace. The show features fishing tackle, trips, boats, and seminars from top pros. The Ultimate Fishing Show, Novi, January 12th through 15th.
Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above,